Hello and welcome to Taribio Speaks, the live series podcast. Last edition, which was our maiden edition, I featured a distinguished personality, a young man who developed cerebral palsy just a few minutes after his birth and rose up to become a barrister. Barrister Elizabeth Allagoa. And I'm sure you all loved him. Well, while he was making his remarks, he referred to his mother as a support system and his father and of course some friends and relatives. So I have with me here for the second edition of this podcast, his mother, Mrs. Elizabeth Allagoa. You're welcome, ma.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you here, ma.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
When I look at you, I see a hero. Because a heroine, that's the way we refer to the female.
Okay.
You have been through a lot.
Of course.
You had a syncoma 31 years ago.
Yes.
How was the experience?
Well, it wasn't easy. Before Syncma, I had a child.
Okay.
In 1988, a girl.
Okay.
But unfortunately, through some medical mistakes, I bled. And eventually, a month later, the child died. Then the doctor said I shouldn't have a child because of complications that arose that time. For 5 years.
Okay.
Then exactly 5 years, I took him with a Syncma. We were so happy. Then at birth, a Syncma came at 34 weeks. Okay. And at birth, he couldn't cry. So in the process, and it was so funny, the doctors that were there during my first delivery were there, even the nurse too. The same nurse was on duty, and the Syncma couldn't cry. So they too, I think they became anxious. In the process of making him cry, they turned him upside down and tapped the bottom. He now cried with that sudden cry. According to them, a vessel burst, a vein busted, and the bled in the brain. And they took him to the incubator. When I went to see him, he was so lively, the hands were shaking. And I said, look at him, so agile, despite being a preterm. Then my elder sister-in-law said, "Che, ignorance." And I looked at her, see, ignorance, what must be wrong? She now took me aside and said, Syncma is bleeding in the brain.
That's why he was
doing that.
agitated.
He was agitated.
Yes, he was agitated.
That the bleeding was up to a high level, that I shouldn't worry, they are working on it. But it wasn't funny. I said, God.
Knowing that you had lost a child.
Yes, I lost my first child.
Yeah.
Now this one again. And the in-between years wasn't easy because I had to treat infection and everything.
As a result of the complications.
Yes. Now a Syncma came and another phase of wahala. But initially I was really depressed. And at a point
let me cut you. When did they give you the diagnosis that he had developed cerebral palsy as a result of the bleeding?
It was initially, it didn't show.
Okay.
But when we got home, if you lie him on the bed, that's where it will be. He will not move. You have to turn him. If you don't turn him, that is it. And then his feeding too became a problem. You can feed him in the morning, and in the evening, what you have given him in the morning, well, it will just bring up everything. But by God's grace, we were going to the hospital. We started with physiotherapy. And then by 4 months, we saw he started feasting. He was now folding the hands.
Let's look at the depression phase after a Syncma. You said you had a phase of depression.
Yes, I was depressed. I said, yeah, and I really questioned God. God, why? God, why? But when I had my first baby and she died, I was crying and asking God, why? Why all this? Then I heard him speak. Who are you to question me? When I turned and looked, I didn't see anybody. And I just said, Lord, I am sorry. I wiped my eyes. So when a Syncma came and another challenge again, I still asked the why, but within reason. And then There was a day I went to the road, I forgot myself. I was so depressed, I was thinking about everything. I said, God, what will people say? First child died, now second child this. And what brought me out of my vision? 2 cars nearly hit me. The shrieking of the tire just made me to realize myself. And I said, God, if I die today, what will happen to the child? So that now made me, after crying, I went to God. I said, Lord, give me the grace to be able to carry on this assignment you have given to me. And that was it.
But that wasn't the end of the story.
It wasn't the end, my darling sister. It was terrible. You know, family people, the ones that felt whatever you do is not good. Some spoke it out. Some from their actions you will know. And whether you like it or not, people will talk. Some will talk in front of you. Some will say it behind you. Then the people that will carry the tales will come and say, see what this person is saying, see what this person is saying. Now, we had to manage with a single man. He's feeding. We had to learn how to feed him. The doctor said his trachea with the esophagus were very close. So we can take as long as 2 hours to feed him.
2 hours?
Yes, slowly. You will make sure that there are nutrients you are feeding him, there is no seed. You have to listen. Then
that's like sieving through the pap.
Yes, then I met another principal. By then I was a principal of a special school.
Okay.
I met another principal during ANCOS meeting, and she said, I heard you're having problem with your child. And I said, yeah. She said, see, just give him draw soup with very soft swallow. If he's eating any other food, mash banana, mix it with it so that he can swallow easily. And to say the truth, when we started doing that,
there was enough sleep for the
started,
food.
Yes, the Gary was going
down. So we'll
down.
call that one native intelligence.
Yes, the food was going down. And then with the banana, digestion was now easier. And by the time he was 2 years plus, all those
issues that are abated.
But the only thing that affected him was the motor aspect.
Okay.
He couldn't creep, couldn't walk, nothing. He had to creep at the age of 2 years, 5 months, starting with the head. We used the head to push. I was watching him. I said, Che, how is this boy doing it?
You put the back of his head on the floor.
On the floor, and then he would just do the neck somehow and push himself. Gradually, he started pushing with the shoulders.
That was how he crawled.
Then he turned on his belly and started creeping like a snake. And gradually, we bought a small chair for him, which he can now raise himself, and started moving. But all the change came when we really focused on God.
Okay.
When we really focused on God and handed over everything for God to this thing. I had a peace of mind. My husband was there supporting his siblings too. My mother-in-law was a pillar of support. My mother-in-law was a pillar of support. And gradually, we had to wait till he was 6 years old before we sent him to school. Because he couldn't feed himself, cannot pick even a paper. He didn't have that grip ability that you and I have.
To hold a pen?
Hey, no. A pen is too heavy. Paper. He cannot even lift the smallest biscuit to put in his mouth.
Okay.
But with time,
there is something I would like to ask at this point. You had another child.
Yes.
What was the age gap, as in how many years before you had another child? Okay. And what happened in between those years?
And my second child came when Isimma was 7 years.
That's your third child. You
okay,
had lost
let me
one
say,
before
let me say my third child, Emmanuel. We called him Emmanuel. Aibafie. Then we called him Inembe again, Aibawanemi.
God is with us.
Yes, so he answered Emmanuel, Aibawanemi. No,
Okay.
Emmanuel, Inembe, Aiban Wanemi, then Aibaifie.
Okay, so God's Emmanuel,
in English,
God is with us, and God's time.
Yes.
All right.
So, but now they said in between, I had series of miscarriages for whatever reason. Not that I wasn't taking in. I was taking in sometimes as I'm getting into the 3rd month. I'll feel a sharp cut on my navel, and that is it. I miscarried about 5 times.
5 times after a single one?
Yes, in between them. We just go like that. But God is in His mercy, brought Emmanuel. 1990. I didn't even know I was pregnant. I went to Jebwede for meeting, came back. And when the elderly ladies saw me there, I was coughing and sneezing. They said, "Oh, don't worry, my daughter, it will soon be over." I said that I'm not pregnant. I'm all right. I just saw my mercy. And they said, "No, it will soon be over. Just take it easy." And it was there when I got back home. I saw that
you were pregnant.
Then when Emmanuel came and said, bouncing, rolling, doing fatty. We call him tuku tuku, mungulu mungulu, all the things. We called him. My sister-in-law would describe him as long. This Bayelsa suya.
Yeah.
When you drop it, you will just see it moving, and the Emmanuel will just move to you wherever you are to suckle. Then 3 days later, Emmanuel now presented to join this. And we were wondering where the join this came from. When I was pregnant with Emmanuel, about 4 months or thereabout, I had this severe, the doctors call it acute malaria with anemia. So we now started treating for malaria, and then throughout my pregnancy, they had to build up my blood. So I don't know whether it was from there or what that the jaundice came. And unfortunately, 2000, the facilities at our hospitals here were not much. So when he presented with the jaundice, there was no facilities to handle
in Bayelsa then?
Yes.
That's a federal medical
center. No facilities to handle him. No blood exchange facility, no light, infrared light to treat this thing. By the time they referred us to UPTH Port Harcourt, the damage was done. So his own disability was complete.
The same cerebral palsy?
No, yes, cerebral palsy. Immediately the brain is damaged. It's cerebral palsy. That is a developmental problem. Yeah. So let us say his development stopped at just 3 days or 4 days after birth. We had to build up. He was complete, couldn't do anything.
He was homebound.
He was homebound. We couldn't send him to school because he cannot sit, cannot feed himself, he cannot bathe, nothing, toileting, everything. You have to do it for him. And then what really killed my spirit was the talk of people around you.
That you had 2 children.
Both in the family, the society, in the church. People look down on you as if your problem is the worst. You are the worst sinner. And sometimes I heard that little voice telling me, end it all. Oh. End it all. End it all. But God in His mercy saw us through. Emmanuel grew up to 18 years before dying.
Before he passed?
He passed on 2018.
Yes. 2018?
Yes.
That should be about...
He was 18
He was 18 years old when he passed?
Yes, when he passed.
So how was it raising a single mother through school? Mm-hmm. I know you had to take care of Emmanuel, who was homebound, while concentrating on his education. How was it?
A single man's own. We thank God for family support. My husband was there. And then in his elementary school, I have this niece, Ayo. We call her Ayo. Ayo name, but we shortened her name too. She was his carrier. She will carry him through the rain, through the sun to school and back. Then, like he said, the days we are late in carrying him, his classmates one will jack him on her back, others will separate all his books, and everybody will carry one thing and follow him. We call it Mboro. They will just line up and bring him home. And primary school was very joyful for him. It was as he got to secondary school, started withdrawing. I think maybe as he realized his case or challenge, started withdrawing, very few friends. And they said we had to get a boy to go to school with him. And we were able to do so. But we had to become his home teachers. We employed extra lesson teachers, and he was able to listen. In SS3, he didn't pass all his papers. Maths was a problem to him. So I had to tell him, go back to school.
So how many times did he write?
I carried him to school personally. The first day back at school, I said, don't feel bad that you are repeating with your juniors. Just focus on your education. And he did. And he did. And when he came back, after his exam, he just did WAEC twice. And he said, yes, Mommy. Yeah, he said, Mommy, this is my exam. Even JAMB, he took JAMB twice. Okay. The second JAMB he went to write, he came back and said, Mommy, I wrote, he tapped his chest. I said, I wrote this exam. It's my exam, and I made it. I think he got 213.
Whoa. 214. Okay. All right. So before we leave for this edition, because the conversations with you cannot end with just one edition, because we have so much more to discuss with her. We're looking forward to hearing her experience in law school, and for some years now she has gone into advocacy, and she has a rich experience when it comes to spreading the message that disability does not mean that the person is finished, that they are just able differently. So I'll see you in the next one. Again, it is Taribio Speaks, the live series podcast.